Oh, for sure. When you are able to make that kind of a play on your opponent's side of the territory, it's not as if like SSG overextended themselves and got punished for their positioning. It was just the opposite effect. Dignitas had the pressure and they applied it in the right place at the right time. Terra as well, I think, for Trixtank is a great look for Dignitas so far in this set. And I wouldn't be surprised if, maybe not SSG, but if teams are looking into that pick to take that away from his hands.
Well, Space Station now have the first pick, which means they could wind up with the King Arthur if Dignitas don't ban it. So far, Dignitas kind of hanging true with all the meta players on the secondary slot, and will ban out the Freya. Opwash Serket banned out by Space Station Gaming, and this final ban from Dignitas. Now, in a best of 5, if I'm Dignitas, and I'm feeling saucy,
you're going to leave Arthur?
I might let you play King Arthur.
Well, the thing is they know that Artio is a big nuisance, right? So, like, that could be the idea. And when they were the first pick, they banned away the Artio, knowing that Arthur, if they get it, doesn't have to worry about that cripple. So that could be the idea. Let Arthur through, let Artio through, bait the King Arthur.
Now, here's the thing, folks. When we talk about Artio versus Arthur, King Arthur, you can see he gets a lot of movement with his abilities. The cripple that Artio, or any cripple, really, will shut down 3 of King Arthur's 6 abilities. So because of that, that's why Artio is so effective versus the King. Space Station do get King Arthur. Dignitas opt for Xbalanque and the Artio. So as Toli said, sort of a bait into picking up the strong character, and Dignitas get the counter, which wasn't available to SSG in games 1 and 2.
Now, it might not necessarily be Artio in that solo lane, although I would prefer it. It could easily still be played by Trixtank. There could be ideas there. QvoFred has played Guardians from time to time. I don't expect him to run this Artio, so it's still little question marks of where this Artio's going.
Right there, Aquarius figuring out if he's going to be playing the Artio, if the Artio will go across the map. Space Station Gaming now on the clock, figuring out their next 2 selections. Vamana will be here.
Vamana jungle, more than likely.
Vamana has been very powerful. King Arthur, Vamana, and Bacchus. This right now is, well, 3 of the flavor picks of the month. Bacchus, very powerful, being able to chug at level 0, well, level 1, even without a point in it. That a recent change in the off-season, so he just comes to lane with all this power and mitigation. And then Vamana, just raw power in the jungle, ton of movement speed, and now his ultimate has been adjusted so that he's not quite a relic of the past.
From Dignitas, I want to see a Serket pick, banning away certain mid-mages, and then locking in Giannis for themselves. Again, I think Hurriwind had a great game on the Giannis, and more importantly, you don't want to give Space Station Gaming a Giannis with these 3 aggressive frontliners, because Giannis can peel for himself without the assistance of his frontliners.
Right. So we'll see if Giannis can, or we'll see what the selection is here from Dignitas. Xbalanque and Artio here. Hera
to your queen.
with a Hera. Hera was banned. Hera was played by Dignitas in game number 1, banned out by Space Station in game number 2. So here Dignitas opt for Hurriwind's Hera, say that 3 times fast, before the second phase of bannings. Dignitas on the clock now, stripping away from SSG, who need a carry and a mid lane mage.
Poseidon, the first target. You don't want to deal with a cripple, I guess, if you're Artio. Once you go in, you're not coming back out against that Poseidon, so that makes a little bit of sense. Would not be surprised if the next ban is a Giannis out of Dignitas.
Yarlang Shen coming out from Space Station Gaming. Don't want to deal with the dog ban. There's the Giannis ban that Toli had so rightfully predicted. Dignitas, all 4 bans in, 2 mid laners, a support, and, well, whatever the hell Freya is these days. SSG on the other side, banning out the Opwash. The Serket and the Erlang Shen.
Now, if they're banning Erlang Shen, that means they're afraid of basic attack warriors, and I was going to guess that they were going to ban Osiris or Bologna off of that Erlang Shen, but no. Taking away the Naja. Some aggressive supports that they don't necessarily want to deal with. This Artio is probably going to variety, so as a result, you don't want to give Trixtank the Erlang Shen Naja.
Dig, looking at the Achilles. Again, characters with executes can look nicely against King Arthur, which is interesting because I historically have disliked executes against characters that can heal. Yes. But Arthur's just so difficult to kill that bringing him down to 25, 35, whatever character you're talking about with execute, is much better than 0.
As long as you can lock him down with CC, stun, silence, taunt, whatever, That's the way to lock down the Arthur and kill him. And then you add the Achilles Fatal Strike ultimate for that 30% health execute threshold.
Right.
And Dignitas shouldn't necessarily have to worry about that 1v4 play capabilities, because an Arthur with Gladiator Shields will walk into 4 players willingly with Gladiator Shield, knowing that he might actually win that exchange. But when there's an Achilles with an ultimate, you're not walking out of that one alive.
All smiles here on the Space Station side. BaRRa laughing and having a good time. Vulcan going to be hovered here as SSG search for a mid lane. We saw Vulcan played a number of times by Paul last set, 3 times to be specific.
It's hard to pick a mid laner for SSG because of how aggressive their front line is, so you need something that could peel for yourself, or at least something that might be tanky. Jean Kui wouldn't be a bad idea here.
That would be
more
a nice
protections.
Look. And a heal to get away from Achilles. I'm with you. I might just like to see the Jean Kui, but it looks like Hachiman and the Vulcan will be hovered over. Coach Plasma talking it over with his team here.
Because it's such an aggressive front line that you want to just, at this point, you might as well commit to an all-in strategy from SSG, so that wouldn't be a bad idea. Whereas Vulcan is more, you need setup to land your abilities. Don't get me wrong, Arthur and Bacchus can certainly set you up, but if for whatever reason Dignitas can penetrate your front line and get into the back, it's going to be difficult for Venenu.
I love the way we did that. Shout outs to production, by the way. The Morrigan, or Vulcan just becoming the Morrigan, kind of a foreshadowing into what might happen in the match itself. The Morrigan will be selected here for Space Station Gaming. We mentioned ad nauseum how strong Zeros was on this character just last match. Venenu's the Morrigan has been just as celebrated as Zeros has had. So very interested to see how well he can bring this character out. Dignitas looking for what seems to be a jungler hovering over the Arachne.
Interesting.
Will QvoFred play it is a different question.
It's possible. It's taking a page out of Adapting's book from the last set. He had a great set there, and it was off of the back of Zeros playing this Outposh that had great zone control with Empty the Crypt. This time around with Hera's Defend the Argus, it's good AoE control, but it's not persistent over a long time. You drop it once, and then the rest of it is single target after that. So it could be where they're focusing one individual target.
And when it comes down to it, Arachne definitely excels killing tanky options. King Arthur will get stunned out, will get anti-healed as well, but Ratatoskr is going to be the choice instead. Another character that can kind of lock down options. Interesting to think about Rat and how he will apply here.
I like the global pressure. It's still a little bit questionable of where this Achilles and Ratatoskr are going. Ratatoskr has been played by Variety in the past, and Achilles can be a great jungler, has magnificent scaling. So as long as you build the physical power, get the Crusher for penetration, and even attack speed, I think QvoFred is going to have a field day against SSG.
Well, even if Qvo plays the Ratatoskr, because just going off of that, Qvo's Krat has always been kind of a good look for him, so different options available. I don't think we're going to see the jungle Hera like we did in the console league once upon a time.
No,
but,
definitely not.
I think that the Achilles and the Ratatoskr are certainly the 2 characters that we're looking at here.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised to see either way. I think that Dignitas has a great composition for burst damage, and they're going to execute it well. You got the global pressure from Xbalanque's Darkest of Nights that threw the Cosmos from Ratatoskr. SSG needs to execute perfectly.
Dignitas trying to close it here. Let's see how they do.
Game number 3, Space Station against Dig. It's Space Station with their backs against the wall, and now the question becomes, how does Variety do when the shoe's on the other foot? King Arthur for Aqua against the Achilles.
You can just feel the fire in Aquarius, though, starting to surge back up. He is looking for vengeance here against Dignitas. It's his turn. We always refer to Thor as spin to win, but this is the true spin-to-win god.
I think so, too. And so we do have to keep an eye on this start yet again. That's been a big determining factor in these games so far. But it's hard not to wonder how Aqua's going to be able to do is now the shoes on the other foot. It does look like andinster on this Vamana in the jungle is sticking by his own speed, but Variety and Trixtank are on their way. Perhaps they'll just trade as Hurriwind has stuck by the speed at the top, and no way he can 1v2.
I don't think everyone's all that interested in trying to contest Bacchus King Arthur early on, and for good reason. Probably better off just leaving that one alone, although he might give it a shot with a possible polymorph over the wall.
It looks like he's going to at least see if maybe he can strip it away right at the end. He'll probably have the slightly better confirm, but look at all this poke that he has to take. Now he drops it and defends it, so Hurriwind can move right to wave after securing the buff.
think Aquarius just needed to wait for his cooldown to actually be available one more time for that speed bust steal to go successfully, but
he's gonna grab it.
They will at least get the benefit of bringing down Dignitas' blue buff at the expense of their own.
That's right, but on the other side, Trixtank was able to secure the speed of the other side. So Hurriwind defended their own speed and they lose it. QvoFred, though, with a chance to solo BaRRaCCuDDa at the start of the game, catches him at the purple buff for first blood.
Because this is unconventional now. BaRRa's been so accustomed to Qvo for the first 2 games, not coming over to dual lane, period, within the first 5 levels or so, and now that Qvo's made his appearance, I mean, he gets BaRRa's beads, he gets BaRRa's buff, and he gets a free kill for first blood.
And what's happening right now is it feeling like Dignitas is just the better team at navigating this early game so far.
I think I said that first one twice, by the way, but it doesn't even, it's just the emphasis.
Right, and they've been able to decide what's the better use of their time in the early game. Where should they be on the farm? Where should they be looking for farm and the best way to secure it? And so far, it's heavily favored Dignitas in all 3 games. Look at this. I mean, they've got 2 members pinned at their tower by a Xbalanque.
And Xbalanque is level 3. I know Andy's level 3 too, but Ataraxia had the benefit of not getting sent back to his base on level 1, so BaRRaCCuDDa, I think, is just going to continue trailing behind Ataraxia as long as he remains in the 1v1 scenario.
Now Variety and Trix in the 2v2 up against Aqua and JeffHindla, so it does look like, at least in this set, bringing the support over to kind of battle it out in this solo lane 2v2 is the strat that both teams have agreed is the best use of their time, at least for now. Though it has favored Dignitas in terms of pressure, they're the ones grabbing that totem of coup.
I almost wish Spacestation would have elected for an Artio ban, though, over the Aquash even, because the 3 gods that they opted for in their first couple of picks and bans is King Arthur, Vamana, and Bacchus. If you're not able to kill a Vamana, or excuse me, an Aquash with that core, you've got bigger problems to worry about, I think. And so it just felt a little bit off there from me, because now Trixtank gets to suppress Aquarius in a way that I think that Spacestation were looking for, trying to control Variety in the first 2 games.
And what I love about this is that you're still getting the Artio against the King Arthur, the matchup that you wanted, but you also let Variety be on an aggressive warrior like he likes. So they're getting the best of both worlds. But they have to be careful. Andister's lurking, blinks in, and now Variety's slowed. A nice 2-man root comes out from Trix, but it's not good enough. A great gank from Andy nets him a kill.
Spacestation got to be careful, though, not to overextend their welcome, because the boys of Dignitas are already making their way on over. Qvo blinks in onto Andinster, and Andy, he just has no mana.
He has no way back out. Argus comes down. Hurriwind gets the answer back. It's a 1-for-1. Solo lane Variety gets traded out for jungler Andinster.
But it was so much. It took them so long to bring down Variety that in the end, Trixtank now gets the blue buff from Aquarius, and not only that, but they found a pick. They get the Totem of Coup one more time, so that's 2 times already that Dignitas are kind of just stacking things up, and I just feel like Dignitas continue to beat Spacestation to the punchline.
That's exactly what it is. It feels like they're the ones with the better grab on what's the best use of time, as Venenu transforms into the Ratatoskr, and that sends Trixtank running for the hills. In fact, Venenu wants a little bit more. This is going to let him extend the duration a little bit, at least get value out of this ult, since his changeling was dropping anyway.
Spacestation will be able to get the left mid harpies, but Venenu was definitely hoping for a better punish, like the one Qvo's looking for right now onto Aquarius. That's the way you want to see your Ratatoskr ganks go.
Exactly what you want, and now Dignitas are showing Aquarius it isn't always just as easy as just pick King Arthur and insta-win. At least so far, Dignitas have had an answer. Can they keep that going, though? Aquarius isn't so far behind that he'll be irrelevant, so they still got a lot to deal with.
Dignitas just look like a well-oiled machine, Finch,
yes,
and for a newly formed roster, I was definitely expecting this team to encounter a few more synergy struggles, but if I'm having to gauge things off of this set alone, these guys just look unstoppable right now.
They look really, really scary. And I think it's because they've held on to some of their core synergies, right? QvoFred and Variety, or Variety and Trixtank, they played together for 2 years already, so even though they have these new pieces in Hurriwind and Ataraxia, all they need those two to do is fill and play for them, to be there when they need them, and let that strong synergy that's been built up over years carry this team. And so far, that's exactly what's happening, man. This Dignitas team looks real good.
If I'm being honest, though, I wouldn't be surprised if Ataraxia has always wanted to play with Trixtank. I mean, those two have battled against each other for years in the Pro League, so not that uncommon, really, to see them now deciding to join forces instead. They understand each other's play styles pretty fully at that. Andinster, JeffHindla, and Aquarius, though, looking to defend this blue buff. Nice flop onto Trixtank to get things going.
The buff was taken successfully, but what about the kill on the back end? Trixtank does get a little bit of healing, but he's incredibly low. Andinster will clean him up, but Argus came through to wreak some havoc. QvoFred wants Aqua on the back end, who turns around, finds the cripple, and that's enough to set up a double kill for Andy, though Variety punishes on the back end, and now Hurriwind gets another kill. So it ends up being 2 for 2 overall, as Trixtank did fall earlier.
Speedy for a baby, but not fast enough, even with that speed buff, to get away from the polymorph range out of Hurriwind. So a good response, I think, from Dignitas. They at least managed to clean things up a little bit, but the problem is for Spacestation that there was a response from Dignitas.
Right.
If you're Spacestation in that position, you want to find the picks and you want to get the hell out of there before Dignitas has a chance to rotate over. But Dignitas are just not budging in the slightest. They have been so adamant about contesting Spacestation and clashing over in that solo side of the map. I almost feel like they're just baiting Spacestation now into these awkward engagements.
Spacestation have been happy to take so far. JeffHindla does have the flop still, and it gets him out of there, so we should be A-okay. It's surprising that fight goes so in favor of Dignitas because a couple things didn't even go right. Variety doesn't get the Fatal Strike for the actual execute, just for the damage. It really helps that Trixtank was able to survive so long as the red buff invade comes through, and that forces QvoFred up into his ultimate defensively.
Good ultimate for Spacestation to not have to worry about for a couple of minutes or so. It all depends on when Kivo decides to next make his appearance, but with the Cosmos on cooldown, that definitely gives Spacestation some wiggle room here to now look to apply pressure in the mid lane. I want to see a grouping out of Spacestation, knowing that Kivo has that ultimate on cooldown, and this invade could be exactly what the doctor ordered.
They won't get here in time to steal the actual buff, but maybe they can pick a fight. Andinster has to flee and does evade the root. But what about JeffHindla? Only level 5, there's still plenty nearby, but Venenu's in stealth. They didn't quite know he was there, can't find the stun, instead gets knocked up and is forced to transform very early on into the Ratatoskr. But Dignitas cleanly disengaged. They've baited out Changeling a very long cooldown.
Oh, Venenu had no idea that the Kivo would be there waiting to meet him around the corner, but he still had that Ratatoskr ultimate available. He'll be able to get to safety, and now Andy in big baby form should make it out okay, possibly.
He does get rooted though, and I don't know if he has enough mana to make his way out. He gets rooted and locked down, and that sets up QvoFred for the kill. Trixtank will connect, and JeffHindla goes down. That's 2 in favor of Dig yet again.
And it almost seems like Andy was trying to reinitiate there, even though Venenu was so incredibly low. I think that was just miscommunication between Spacestation over anything else.
I think so. Andinster sticks around a little bit too long. As soon as they get the ultimate of Venenu, as in he's able to use the Ratatoskr ultimate to get up to safety, then I don't think Andinster needs to stick around any longer. Certainly, Venenu is going to want to leave with how low he was, but he sticks around a little bit too long, doesn't have the mana, and then Trixtank plays it very well to help get the lockdown so they can find the kill.
Andy might have also overestimated how tanky exactly you are inside of that big baby form on the Vamana. So just kind of unfortunate, really, if you're Spacestation in that position. But one method of recovery that I think they could start looking for is maybe trying to help out BaRRaCCuDDa over there on duo side of the map. Ataraxia is on the Xbalanque, but Xbalanque is probably the most vulnerable hunter that Ataraxia has played all day today.
That's a good point. He's played, what, the Hachiman, the Jingwei, I believe, so far, and he's been able to stay relatively safe. So now with the Xbalanque, you can punish it, especially if you're able to catch the dash, but they haven't been able to go show any attention over there. Everything has been drawn to this solo side of the map where they can fight around Variety and QvoFred, and Hurriwind can make quick rotations, and it's worked out heavily in favor of Dig so far.
And Dignitas now possibly even having a chance to look at this Gold Fury. They know that 2 members from Spacestation just backed because Trixtank was in the jungle staring right at them as they started to back. BaRRaCCuDDa doing his best to freeze the wave. I think that's an appropriate response when you're a hunter that ends up falling behind from a well-played gank out of QvoFred at level 1-2 there. So having set up Ataraxia, I think, for being allowed to play passively, because Ataraxia doesn't have to do anything here. He can just sit in lane all day long, farming up until he hits that late game, mid game stride of Xbalanque to really be a powerhouse.
QvoFred's on the right side, though, Taco, and he's here purely to strip away this buff. Aqua knows it. He's got a ward here, but that's a little bit too early, and QvoFred secures it with no problem. So far, Aquarius has not been able to get nearly as much value out of this King Arthur pick as what Variety was, and it's going to be hard for there to not be direct comparisons as Trixtank gets knocked up.
But this is all that I wanted to see from Spacestation. Well, not the possibility of BaRRaCCuDDa dying part, but just the opposite side of the map attention shift, because hold that thought though. Andinster right now looking like he wants to go in on Cuvo, but Big Baby Form doesn't have a way of sticking onto this mobile rat.
And he was able to get away from the belch from JeffHindla, which would have been that lockdown that they needed if they could have found the stun. Aqua's going to stick around and grab the Totem of Ku, but Dignitas want the red buff spawn, which they're certainly here in time for. In fact, they can go right from this to the Gold Fury, and that's the call. Argus has already been dropped. It can start tanking it, and the Gold Fury being bursted, and Space Station can't be around this. They're nowhere nearby. That's a clean win for Dig yet again.
Space Station, though, they're going to try to
This is good.
put a Band-Aid over the bleeding and pick up the Pyromancer, but with Variety and now QvoFred up into the air, they're going to have to drop this Pyromancer, and they might lose Jeff in the process.
JeffHindla's low, but they had the belt and the turnaround from Aquarius. But I don't even know if the kill was that important. They just need to get them off the Pyromancer so that there was no trade. That turns that into a clean advantage for Dig.
And this is just a reoccurring theme now for Dignitas. Don't allow Space Station any part of the map to work with.
Yes.
And the few pieces of the puzzle that I think Space Station are really missing out on here is they spent too long, I think, trying to contest on that solo side. They should have cut their losses from the very start, in my opinion, and just looked to throw everything into duo, because you already know that Aquarius is under extreme amounts of pressure from Cuvo, from Variety, from Trixtank. Just like Venenu's in extreme pressure right now, but looking for the kill onto Trixtank.
Wow.
Dashes in to the T1 tower line, taking a couple shots forward, and Jeff will finally be able to clean up this Artio with the belch.
A heavy commit, but they do find the kill, and Venenu is able to disengage using the Ratatoskr ultimate, and that is finally just one clean pick in favor of Space Station, though it takes a heavy commit. I think Trixtank didn't expect them to be that willing to dive to kill him.
It was risky, for sure, because when you see Venenu in the Ratatoskr changeling form dashing in onto an Artio underneath the T1, I mean, that's not exactly a safe call from Space Station, but it felt a little bit reckless, but it ended up paying off.
Even down 2 levels, you could see Aquarius being willing to box out with Variety on this ultimate. BaRRaCCuDDa has to be careful. There's pings. They certainly know the rat's here. He's just being patient. Blink means he'll still have the dash that gets there to the tail end of the mounted archery. And even though Ataraxia drops the ultimate, they can't keep diving underneath the tier 1, and BaRRaCCuDDa makes it out and holds on to his beads.
But he won't be able to hold on to that purple buff. Cuvo, like so many times before, is just stripping Space Station's jungle time and time again. And Space Station, like I just said, Finch, I think they took a little bit too long to cut their losses. And this is also something very similar to like that Space Station Season 5 vibe for me, at least, because it just seems like they're so stubborn for trying to just hold on to keeping Aquarius alive, because a lot of their past game successes have come off the back of Aquarius being ahead in solo.
Exactly. Aqua really turned into a win condition for this team last year, and I think he earned that title of being, you know, one of the ways they can win games. But it does feel like Space Station have a hard time zooming out. We'll hold the thought that was Aqua certainly dead. The rotation heavily favoring Dignitas. Hurriwind and Trixtank get there too soon. But it feels like they have a hard time zooming out to look at the big picture sometimes on the Space Station squad.
Dignitas just made it so blatant in Game 1 that they wanted to spend all of their time camping Aquarius. And I'm just surprised to see Space Station still being willing to try and contest that instead of looking to be proactive on the opposite side of the map, because I think that's how you really alleviate the solo lane pressure, is you put Ataraxia under fire.
JeffHindla falls on the right-hand side. Even with the horrific emblem expended solely onto Variety, he gets hunted down, and that sets up 2 kills and a tier 1, and very likely the tier 2 on right. They do pay for it with the tier 1 and left as BaRRaCCuDDa kept pushing, but now they've got some help. Artio makes the rotation from Trixtank, Ataraxia here as well, and they might even have a chance to turn this around. Up into the Colossal Fury goes Andy, but he's not very tanky at all, and he falls quickly. Rotation comes in for Venenu. He has the stun, but Ataraxia has Aegis. That keeps him alive, and now a chance for the turnaround.
Ataraxia, he's already out of range. Trixtank just barely managing to keep his hunter alive. So much committed from Space Station and with no return other than losing their own jungler.
did indeed lose a kill, and the Pyromancer. Remember, they at least got the tier 1 in left, but that does not feel like anywhere near enough as the Pyromancer goes down 2. Take a look at those graphs. Dignitas are about 7,000 gold, absolutely out in front, and nearly 9,000 experience. Just like every other game, there's been this steady decline favoring Dignitas in terms of farm.
And I think Trixtank has done a slam dunk of a job this game on the Artio, just being
Set,
where
really.
he needs to be, when he needs to be there. I just feel like all of Dignitas has been so in rhythm with each other.
Yep.
Like the second that you think that a member of Dignitas might be in danger, you suddenly realize, oh my god, their whole team's rotating. And actually,
I think we've only seen one true pick from Space Station, right, where they get a kill without having to give up something on the back end of it. And I mean that across all 3 games. It's felt like so far, if Space Station get anything, it's something that Dignitas is allowing them to have. It's in trade. It's a sacrifice they were willing to make because they were getting something else. I don't know if it's a lack of initiative from Space Station or just if this game has been all in Dignitas' court.
well, they don't really have a way to initiate though on Space Station, because 3 of the gods that they picked designated. I kept trying to decide if I was trying to say dedicated, but Artio and she just cripple fields just like this.
Exactly
JeffHindla's
right.
stuck, and he's sitting almost dinner for variety, but he's going to actually make it on out of there.
This is a nice turnaround, a chance for them to punish Variety, but andinster melts like butter in a skillet. Nowhere for him to go. BaRRaCCuDDa had the mount in archery and wants the turnaround, but suddenly a Trixtank appears, and that keeps the fight going. Aqua has made it in, and he's trying to bully out Variety, but now he's isolated. Aqua, can you make the 1v4 happen? He certainly can. Hurriwind gets that one. QvoFred takes BaRRaCCuDDa, and Dignitas have all the answers.
Executioner putting in work right there, by the way, for the King Arthur. And again, this is all Dignitas, the entire set, Finch.
Yes.
It just feels like the second Space Station seemed like they might be in a winning position for any form of setup. All of Dig is immediately there to respond. It just never truly feels like Space Station are given a chance to have that comeback potential because of Dignitas just steadily holding W.
They've been able to outplay them at every single turn as an early game Fire Giant comes through. Before the 18-minute mark, Dignitas grab it. And really, at this point, it's just par for the course for the way they've played this entire set so far. They're going to backspin that gold and then come out and start looking for more to take. There's still plenty of towers on the map to farm up to push this gold lead out even further.
I don't even think it's a performance issue either from Space Station. I think that it's purely just drafting woes continue to haunt this team.
Yes, I think that's a good point to make. It's not as if that they're thoroughly outskilled by these players on Dignitas. I don't think that's quite the case here. I think you're right, they've lost picks and bans in all 3 games. And then in the game, they haven't been able to make the adjustment either and zoom out and see the best way to try and respond to Dignitas' aggression in the jungle as they grab yet another Fury and a tier 1.
I think what it's really all going to boil down to here now for Space Station, their only chance of survival seems to be coming from these Phoenixes. I don't think that they'll fare very well underneath their T2 towers, not with how far ahead Dignitas are right now in terms of itemization, but they're looking to take the battle anyway.
They don't even have Aqua here. He's still in the jungle, but they don't need him. Venenu finds Ataraxia very early on. QvoFred surveys the fight from on high, comes down and finds the knockup onto Aqua, but the response from Ven. Now he's up on the tree. He's looking for a target himself, and he'll pick the front line. He lands on top of Trixtank, but Hera's now joined the fray. Argus comes in, and that means QvoFred can take Venenu.
Flop, I don't think, even if it had landed, would have saved the life of Venenu. And right now, it's all about escaping Variety. No one wanting to get into execute range for that fatal strike. Meanwhile, Aquarius doing all he can to stay alive, but unfortunately, there's no chances of living through 5 different members of Dignitas.
No, he hasn't been able to get nearly as much value as King Arthur. Maybe in lane, in the 1v1 against Variety, it's been okay, but in the team fights, it hasn't been able to stack up. And now with 4 members up against 3, Dignitas are going to push right into this Phoenix. A little bit more aggressive than we've seen from them this set, but so far it's working. JeffHindla's pushed forward, doesn't get executed by the Fatal Strike, but is still low. Ataraxia's ultimate turns out the light, and now they can take down the Phoenix.
Andinster, though, sitting around 30% health, but it's Trixtank who's going to be the first to fall. That Phoenix was sitting on 1 HP for a pretty second there, but I believe Hurriwind just turned right back around, able to bring it down no problem. And that was a Phoenix Siege without their Hunter.
Exactly. That was a Phoenix Siege that wasn't quite as pristine as the ones we've seen from them. And I don't mean in terms of execution, but like in terms of patience. Other times in this set, they've been willing to come all the way back to base, heal, push up every single wave, and slowly, methodically take it. This time they just said, hey, let's just grab it. And so it is a little less clean. They lose Trixtank, but they get the tier 2 and the Phoenix. And now they're even further out in front, 13,000 gold.
And it's just crazy to think that this is the best Space Station has looked so far in this set. This is probably the most response that we've seen from Space Station, because the other 2 games, the leads were just way too far out in front for a Space Station to do anything about it. But just behind the back gank now, coming out of BaRRaCCuDDa and go. Variety toss up into the air. Big baby form is good. Variety looking to be the first to fall. And sure enough, andinster will help defend that T2 tower alongside of the other members from Space Station.
Finally an overstep from Dignitas, I would say, as they try and grab that tier 2 tower with just the 2 of them, Variety and QvoFred, and they do get punished, though Qvo makes it out with his ultimate. They'll have to settle for the Pyromancer as a nice consolation prize, but Space Station now can say that you can't just 2v5 us underneath the tier 2 tower. You gotta show a little more respect than that.
At least not on Achilles.
Right. Maybe a King Arthur could have done it.
If it's a King Arthur, that's a deicide.
They turned that
or
one
at least
around
a
easy.
quadra kill.
Right.
One or the other. But I think Dignitas are also trying to see what they can and can't get away with. It's not really a bad idea to... Well, actually, I take that back. It is a pretty bad idea in a competitive level game, I think, to go too far into the Beyond. But I definitely think that Dignitas only makes that play there because Variety and Qvo were probably convinced that Space Station wouldn't be willing to contest for a T2 tower.
Venenu was looking for the stun, but QvoFred blinks the short distance, is able to get away
Sound
from
cue.
it. It was very nice. He could hear it. And now Venenu's stuck without really a way out, except for the Changeling ultimate. He goes up into it and does get him out by turning into QvoFred. He's got a good bit of cooldown, though. Spirit Deso, the cooldown boots, and the Mage's Blessing for 30%. But you never want to have to waste that ultimate.
Oh, Andy right now on the run, gonna just use the blink for good measure here, as all of Dignitas now looking to zone away Space Station from this next Fire Giant. Won't be an enhanced Fire Giant though, but Hurriwind doesn't mind using the Argus. Such a low cooldown on Argus anyway. This is part of the potency that Hera's involved with, and it's crazy to think that this is the first time we're really having a chance to sit back and talk about Hurriwind, because just like the other 2 games before, all of this just feels like Trixtank, QvoFred, and Variety putting on a clinic.
His stamp is all over it. 5-0-6, top of the player damage charts, at least for his own team. It's BaRRaCCuDDa actually is up at the top of everyone on this Hachiman so far, but Hurriwind's absolutely done everything they've asked of him as Aqua tries to fight outside the Phoenixes. He does have 2 members at bay, but they might need a little bit of help on the right-hand side where Dignitas continues to push into this right side Phoenix. They've got a minion wave now, but Ataraxia falls back. They want to try and siege as a unit.
Space Station, though, got to be careful with the way the Dignitas are looking to split them apart. Dig have done an excellent job at separating Space Station's front line from their back line, and it's put a lot of pressure onto JeffHindla to try and make a decision. And oftentimes, Dignitas get what they're after anyway, because they usually find a pick onto JeffHindla while he's peeling for his carries.
That's right. Whoever it is that's the furthest forward, andinster oftentimes too has been the target, as he's not particularly tanky. Variety battling Venenu and Aqua, and has Venenu very low, though the stun allows Venenu to reposition and get back to the fountain. Ataraxia can't find the push on the right-hand side either, so the right side Phoenix still stands, but they're in perfect position for the mid-Phoenix as soon as it spawns to start burning it down. Aqua has a target in the air. QvoFred does end up low, but mid-Phoenix is already gone.
Trixtank, though, just gets deleted from the mid lane, and Space Station now feeling a little bit more confidence in their win here.
Yeah.
Trying to get QvoFred, but he's up into the air at the same time as Venenu.
And that means not much value will come out from the Changeling ultimate. BaRRaCCuDDa, the target on the backside. Beads and Aegis have both already been burned, and Variety comes in for the cleanup crew. A double kill for the solo laner as he finds the execute. Now they'll look for the reset on Aqua in the backline. Hurriwind finds the 3rd, and Dignitas now 4 against 2. Only Venenu and JeffHindla are still standing to try and defend.
Just not sure that it'll be possible for Venenu to defend against QvoFred, and all that pressure. Hurriwind for good measure going to help bring down Venenu in the end here. It is one JeffHindla against the world right now, and the world is Dignitas, and they're going to take it.
What an impressive set from Team Dignitas, man. I don't think a single game went longer than 28 minutes for them. Not just a 3-0, but clean, never really in any doubt. Sure, this was very, very impressive in this team. This is scary now for everyone else in the league.
It's going to be back to the drawing board for sure for Space Station, and it's already been said before, Finch, but that synergy from Dignitas just looked unreal throughout that set. I mean, Space Station looked lost and confused out there, but it's not that I actually thought they were lost and confused. It's just that that's how well Dignitas played. That's how clean they were the whole way through. They just did not give Space Station anything to use as a recovery.
And Taco, for you, does this say more about Dignitas or about Space Station? Because I don't know if this is so much Space Station as Dignitas just playing at an insanely high level.
I think it was mostly just Dignitas coming out and playing better Smite today. That's really what it all boils down to at the end of the day. And for Space Station, I mean, yeah, it definitely hurts to go down in that fashion on your opening debut set for Season 6 SPL, but there's still plenty of time for comebacks. I still firmly believe that most of this team's horror stories come from the drafting stage.
Yeah, and they've got to get their heads back on right because they got to play again tomorrow, I believe, right, against the Knights.
Yeah.
So Space Station have an even tougher matchup waiting
Week 1.
Week 1. That's might be ripped for Space Station already. I know the boys can get back in the right mindset, though. I'm going to get to the right mindset for listening to these analysts as they get back to the desk.
Thanks a lot, friends. Great cast and great 2 matches as we now put an end cap on everything. Dignitas with an emphatic 3-0 above Space Station.
See, this set was definitely one-sided, whereas the last set didn't feel that way despite the score being the same. I love the patience from QvoFred looking for this purple buff invade. BaRRaCCuDDa couldn't do anything about it. A little bit of a late beats, but you're not going to outrun the Ratatoskr level 1 or otherwise.
And also, you know, at the same time, the beauty of this also is the fact that Dignitas are able to sort of operate almost like a drummer playing a drum set. 4 limbs doing different things. While that rat was getting first blood, there was also a speed buff invade. Hera wound up with a speed buff early in the game. So nice ability for Dignitas to spread across the whole map.
I think this kind of came down to a little bit of a mental drained mindset from Space Station Gaming after losing the last 2 games. It almost felt like they were just trying something different this game, where andinster was playing the Vamana, not really his style, still a decent slash line of 5, 6, and 3, but the Arthur first pick didn't have the Arthur first pick kind of stats, sitting at 0 and 6. It wasn't the Artio that countered him necessarily because that was being played by the support. Variety was playing the Achilles, but it still had a factor in some of those team fights.
And I think that was almost it's almost poetic, the fact that the King Arthur didn't go in the direction of SSG, because as I said, the character is absolutely very strong, but also Variety's out of his mind.
Sure.
And I think kind of a lot of fans at home were sitting there like, well, duh, it's the king, myself included. But I think it's also very good that we can kind of give a nod and see, well, yeah, you know, you don't auto-win because you select King Arthur. Variety's just kind of insane.
Yeah, playing the Achilles, but also a little insanity coming from QvoFred on the Ratatoskr with that global pressure. He was just all over the place. He was just making it happen when it mattered most. I think the global pressure kind of played a mindset there against Space Station Gaming, having to worry about the Ratatoskr. We saw Venenu trying to go into the Rat during certain team fights, but when he used through the Cosmos, he lasted in the sky for so long that sometimes once he landed, he de-transformed back to Morrigan.
A little bit rough there, but not rough at all for the Dignitas squad, who wanted to come into this season really, really hot. Yeah. They had made their changes on their roster, you know, picking up Hurriwind, picking up their hunter Ataraxia, and that was the biggest thing. Was they were like, look, we need to enter very, very hard, very, very fast. We need to be these guys that kind of come out of nowhere, and because a lot of people have a lot of expectations on them, and similar to what you think about when you talk to the Knights, living up to expectations is sometimes harder than being a no-name team.
And for Ataraxia, playing 3 different gods between the Xingwei, the Hachiman, and also the Xbalanque, having a little diversity in his god selection. The front line from Dignitas was just so impressive to me that it brought a lot of comfort for also Hurriwind, you know, playing the Giannis's, the Heras as well, and also for Ataraxia to do those late-game hyper-carry kind of things that they need to do.
Team just looked fresh. That's really all I got to say about Team Dignitas. Hurriwind stepped in and looked like he's been a part of this unit for a long time. Ataraxia has always generally gelled with whatever team he winds up working with, so I wasn't too concerned about that. Concerns across the way, though, for Space Station Gaming as they find themselves on the losing end of things. When it comes down to it, I mean, what was the biggest tell? Let's say game number 3, because 1 and 2 were all King Arthur.
Sure. For game number 3 specifically, I just don't know if they leaned a little bit on andinster's playmaking abilities. He did make some rotations in the soloing early to make sure that Variety was not going to have an easy time, but all the pressure that they lost from the speed buff invades just really hurt him, and I didn't see him coming back. I think that out of all the junglers out there, if you focus out andinster, he's not going to have an easy time whatsoever. So he needs to find a way to be able to come back from that mentally.
Also, I think, you know, and you sort of alluded to it there, focus out andinster there. I think when you look at this team, it's generally about picks and bans, right?
Yes.
So maybe that needs to be a return to the drawing board. But a return to Team Dignitas is exactly what we're going to be doing. Variety and teammates standing by. Let's hear what they have to say after the game.
All right, I've got Variety and Ataraxia, solo laner and hunter for Dignitas, and owners of a very impressive 3-0 win. I gotta cut right to the chase here. Just tell me what it was like, what the comms were like, how y'all were feeling after that big 1v4 you had in game 2.
To be honest, I didn't say anything at all because everyone else was just screaming for me, so I was just sat there and just embraced Fred, just screaming down my ear, gave him a little fist bump, and then just carried on the game.
It was quite an escalation because at the start it was like, oh no, Harry might have gone too deep here. And then he killed Ben, and we're like, wow, nice job, we traded someone out, that's awesome. Then he heals with him more, then he kills someone else, and then Fred just starts screaming the entire way through, and it was incredible, you know. I only got to see it from the map on the duo lane, so I can't wait to go home and watch it.
And throughout that set, you guys looked like you had a ton of synergy with your team, and this is only the first set of the season. Do you think that the move over to America and living together has any contribution to that?
I'd say so, yeah, because usually, like at home, you scrim, you maybe play rank together, but then that's it. You just go do your own thing with your own friends or family. But now, like, we really are living together and, you know, spending a lot more time together out of game. So I think it helps build synergy in general.
And what can you tell me about Hurriwind? Because it really feels like he's on the same page with you guys already, right from minute 1. Has it been tough getting him like into the groove, or was it really kind of like easy as you guys as a group, all like working as a 5-man unit?
He thinks about the game a ton, like a lot. So as we've tried different styles and different comps and stuff, like even if it doesn't fit naturally first, give him 5 minutes, he'll think about it, and then he's right in there. And it's been playing a carry role with these guys as frontline has been the easiest I've ever played Smite. And I think Tyler's definitely benefited from that as well. But he's a smart guy, you know, he figures it out and he can mesh with any playstyle.
And speaking of, you know, Hurriwind meshing in with the team on the play styles, Variety, I have to ask, were you expecting to get King Arthur 2 games in a row?
Not after the first game, no. But I'll take what I can get.
All right, well, congratulations to both of you. That was a really impressive win. We look forward to hearing more from you guys. Thanks for coming in for the interview, and we'll get it back over to the desk.
Words there, great words there from 2 great players, Ataraxia and of course Variety. The king himself.
Oh, man.
He'll take what he can get.
Very humble.
He'll get a win.
Very humble, you know, not even bringing any attention to the 1v4 play where he was just laughing, having the time of his life, and I'm sure it's a time of everyone's life from Dignitas after that 3-0 victory.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic stuff. Just a great start to what I hope to be and what I think will be a great season as well. 0-3s, not something I had expected and not something I anticipate really for the remainder of the season. But tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, of course, Spacestation Gaming will take on Pittsburgh Knights. Should be an interesting one.
Friday at 11 a.m. I think that Pittsburgh Knights should have an edge based off of this kind of performance from both of these teams. Spacestation Gaming really need to do their homework and go back to the drawing board to find a victory. And a very important one, if they can find a win tomorrow, they can almost erase exactly what happened today.
Yeah, it's been incredible. I mean, like I said, this is a new chapter, a brand new chapter. We've been doing this for a long time. Toli has been playing. I've been commentating for 5-6 years now. But this is something unheard of. Every week we get a LAN. Every week we get to see our favorite players live in the studio, and every week we get to bring you what could be the best show possible. King Arthur or not, everybody feeling a little bit royal today. For myself, Toli, Agro, Taco, Finch, Hinduan, everyone behind the scenes, everyone in front of the scenes, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace and much love to you.
Brought to you by Skillshot.